We all understand the type of climate that we're dealing with. We're dealing with multiple offer situations.
I'd love to know sort of what's your why? What makes you tick? Why are you so successful?
Have a dialogue with your lawyer. Have a dialogue with your agent.
Both sort of passionate about sort of what we do.
Again, vet your agent to make sure that they're experienced and they're local. I like that idea.
No excuse to miss it on Saturdays from 8 to 9.
That's right.
WBZ.
And now, the show that gives you the latest and most relevant housing market news. Real Estate Radio Boston with financial expert Rick Shearer and legal professional Ali Alavi.
I'm going to play the devil's advocate here. I actually think that those programs are wonderful. And here's why I tell you. I think to some extent they do a disservice with regards to simplifying the process of a flip, simplifying the process or perhaps the timeline of a redevelopment. But I think the service that they do provide, and I think, listen, it's the nature of a show. If you're going to have a show for a half hour, no, I know, but if you're going to squeeze something, a project into a half hour or an hour, you got to edit the process. You got to edit the information. I think it's going to be an information overload. And you just simply can't have a show that's going to depict a redevelopment project. I think what it does is it stimulates interest in the public that says, hey, that's a really interesting thing to get involved. I want to get involved. I think where you come into play is take those individuals that have now created an interest in this particular project and say, hold on, let's now add realism to this. There's interest. You're interested in setting sail in these particular projects, but let's hold off, let's slow you down, and let's train you as to what that process looks like. Wouldn't you agree to that?
No, I would agree that these shows definitely create a great interest in redeveloping houses, flipping properties, a great interest. And the reason why we started the educational piece in the Fast Track program is because there's just such a demand for the information we have and the knowledge we have. And we would get asked all the time to mentor people, all the time. It still happens. And we wanted to put something in place that was different than is out there now, as opposed to just getting your binder of information, your CDs, and sitting in a seminar and not really doing anything with it.
Let's talk about that for a second, because again, a lot of these stars from the shows have all now the shows dried up, and now they're on this training circuit, and they're getting around. They're filling these rooms with come for a free seminar and blah blah blah. Now you're famous because of this show, Real Estate Radio Boston, right? But you're not on TV.
Not yet.
Yeah. We're working on that. But tell us why your system is different than these guys that got a TV show.
Because you'd be surprised. Most of them who join our joint venture program have already given one of those circuit network type of shows, or not shows, but educators, $10,000, $20,000, $50,000, $60,000. That's what it costs to
that free turns pretty expensive pretty quick.
It's free, and then the upsale is
Okay.
sometimes $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, and you get to go to Vegas, and you get to do a lot of great things, but you don't do any flipping houses. Do they give you the knowledge? Yes. Do you get a ton of information? Yes, but you don't actually get in the foxhole and get your hands dirty. Like we force the people to do stuff, hold them accountable. For an example, out of the last 4 people that joined our joint venture program, 3 of them found their own deal in the first 2 months. Their own deal separate from us. One person found it on Craigslist.
Yeah.
So there's a source to find deals.
Interesting.
One person found it through their mailman, just talking to their mailman. And, we talk to the people. You got to tell everyone what you're doing, and the deals will come.
You bring a wealth of knowledge and information to the table. And Cape is a little bit of an interesting geographical area. I mean, I think it's sort of, if you were to describe the demographics of the Cape, how would you describe it? I mean, is it predominantly first-time home buyers? Is it second home buyers?
The Cape, you really have to break it into upper, middle, and lower and outer Cape. Barnstable County as a whole has one of the highest age. I think the average age in like Orleans, for example, is like 55.
Got it.
So you have a tremendous amount of people that are home rich, and cash poor because they're on fixed incomes. So there's a lot of opportunities when those homes sell. The Upper Cape is a completely different animal than, say, the Mid Cape. The Mid Cape is more of the hustle and bustle of Hyannis. So you've got a lot of working folks that maybe work in the Yarmouth, Dennis, Hyannis area. So you have more apartments, more condos, more of a business, a city feel, if you will, as much as a city could be on the Cape.
Sure.
Upper Cape is very quaint, very affordable, a lot of historic homes, Sandwich, Falmouth, Bourne. It's just amazing. I was in a home the other day from 1770.
Wow.
Just crazy.
Now, one of the things I want to touch upon is what you just mentioned as far as affordable goes. People go to the Cape at least to buy a second home or to even retire is to see that thing, that blue thing out there,
Yes.
the ocean.
Yes, absolutely.
And so you had mentioned before we went on air that your area, that whole Wareham, Bourne, it's the cheapest, the most inexpensive waterfront.
Yeah, it's Wareham, if I can single out that zip code, is the most affordable waterfront in Massachusetts. You've got 54 miles of coastline. There are estuaries and bays. There are fingers everywhere. There are quaint little associations in all parts of the town. And it's a great place to buy affordable waterfront, whether it's just a cute little 2-3 bedroom cottage to come down seasonally, whether it's a second home so you can see that lovely blue water,
Right.
and you don't have to deal with the bridges. And it has, I think, tax rate bottom 5 in the state, lowest taxes.
Oh yeah, I mean,
wow.
people up here in the Boston area, they have no idea. I mean, the Cape taxes are ridiculously low, and so I think you get a nice pickup there. I actually saw, I think it was in Wareham, but on Facebook you could buy an island. There was an island for sale.
Yes, Wickett's Island, actually, it had been for sale for quite some time, and they've done a lot of permitting was in place for it, and I actually believe the Buzzards Bay Coalition is actually has purchased it to preserve it. So there's not going to be a home on there any longer, but we'll all be able to kayak to it. And enjoy
Perfect.
it.
A lot of the transactions that we're really talking about are primarily cash transactions, some creative financing transactions, etc. Are you seeing most of it being second homes, or are these people are they downsizing? Are they upsizing in those hot markets?
God, these are great questions. So there's a bunch of embedded questions in there. So one, I would say that you've got like a demographic bulge with the baby boomers. So they're largely deacquisitioning, right?
Got
Then
it.
you've got a small group in between, which is that demographic of X and Y is actually a fairly small number. And then you've got this boom of millennials again, right? So they've all doing different things. What's really driving these urban markets is you've got baby boomers downsizing, moving in town, millennials moving up. So they're all competing for the same product, right? So that's what I think a lot of what's driving these urban and near burb markets. And by near burb, that could be an island just outside of Portland, Maine, that's within 10 minutes so that you can get into town for a great meal. Right.
Interesting. Let's focus on the baby boomers for a minute. What are some of the challenges that are associated with managing their expectations? Because they're technically, they're downsizing. My God, that's a tough thing.
They're downsizing, and they've never done anything but make a ton of money in real estate.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. That's got to
And
be.
it's up to you to get them the numbers too. There's a
Exactly.
little pressure there.
So I want to refer you guys to a great piece on the Christie's website. There's a really fabulous annual piece that comes out called Luxury Defined. And in Luxury Defined, there's a great discussion about price expectations. And we are sending it to all of our clients because these the baby boomers quite justifiably have had a fabulous experience in real estate all this time. They've been able to overinvest in their properties and sell at a profit over and over again.
Sure.
Well, not so easy.
Right.
Particularly when you've got markets which and you've talked in earlier shows about a little bit of an overhang at the high end in some of these, not the A and A plus markets, but some of the slightly further out markets where people are moving in from. So the job is to manage expectations, to provide really high quality information. You guys are great about that. You've done a terrific job in your show of helping people make informed decisions in both the exit and the entry, and it's really important. And the good brokers that you've brought on have the same thing. Let's get the data. Let's drive people around. One of your brokers talking about drive around the competing properties.
Yeah.
Those are the critical tools. This isn't a close your eyes and hope kind of market on either the buy side or the sell side. On the buy side, you got to be ready to act, right? On the sell side, you have to know what you're getting yourself into and position your property just right and get it done. Don't mess around.
Now, again, focusing on the hot market because we want to shift it over and have some cliffhangers there. But are you seeing a international interest in the local markets, and how is that being treated with regards to their expectations?
Oh, goodness knows, I mean, certainly downtown has been a real international story, and that's been really well played in the press. So I don't think that there's a ton for us to milk out of that one.
Sure.
What's been interesting is that we have seen international buyers for other less conventional, the parents of the kid buying the place in town. That's the sort of the hackney trope. But what's been really interesting is some really unusual purchases. So the biggest trade that happened in New England on the mainland last year was one that we did for Jack Ma, who, the founder of Alibaba, which is sort of the Chinese equivalent of eBay, bought a 28,000-acre former Rockefeller estate in the Adirondacks called Brandon.
Wow.
And that's a novel thing. That's not sort of the usual.
Right.
And he's a very sophisticated guy, very interested in conservation, which is great for this property. Wow. It's an entire landscape.
Yeah.
It's like, talk about a kingdom buyer. That's a kingdom.